Hi, I'm sitting here with the great Chris Chaney. Good to see you, mate.
Nice to be here.
Now, your studio is called the Bass Mint.
That is correct.
And
for obvious reasons, there's a plethora of minty basses.
Minty basses, which I don't know.
Actually, they're not that minty. They're pretty old, a lot of them. So,
which is probably pretty mint. But anyway, so it's wonderful to be here. We're going to talk bass playing. We're going to talk gear. We'll probably get to talk a little bit about some bass as much as possible. We'll try and cover a lot of stuff. Please, as ever, subscribe. Go to producelikeapro.com and sign up for the emails list, and you'll get a whole bunch of free stuff. And thanks for watching. Let's get started. Oh, I see. You're using your finger down like that. That's great. Did it
Ye old wedding ring.
Did it take you a while to get used to playing with it on?
You know what? I haven't. I just put it back on. I was getting.
So you take it off.
Getting grief from my wife. Are we even married? Because I didn't have it on for a long time.
Right.
Because it hooks. I play a lot of P basses and it hooks. I play upright too, and that's
upright.
You can't wear a ring on an upright. You can if you want some extra clatter.
Right.
But for the most part, no.
It took me a long time. I suppose playing guitar, it's a weenie.
You have a big one too. That's a Mongo.
Oh yeah, this is a I don't think this has come off. I can't even get it off.
So. You need the butter.
But yeah, no, my wife would not be happy if I wasn't wearing it, but which is fair enough. I understand. But anyway, yeah, playing on guitar, I don't think I've got quite the same issues. But you're right.
My hands aren't that. I don't have like Stanley Clark's hands.
No.
Or who's the bit? Richard Bono's hands. Like he's got like.
Are they giant?
Monsters, man. He can like play his thumb to there, and his fingers are still over.
You know, we were talking about.
It's like a little toy.
We were talking about Jack. Did you ever see that photograph of him with his thumbs?
Oh yeah, they're like double jointed and they're both bendy. Like I don't.
Yeah, just from playing, they completely just. And the weird thing is it happens.
Yeah.
Look at the span on my left hand opposed to my right.
Yeah, they stretch over the years.
You just don't realize because you're sitting there and I don't know about you, when I was a kid, I'd do all those Berkeley exercises where you play like a major seventh shape, slide one finger down, then slide the next, slide this next. And I was doing these exercises and that just created the stretch. I
just learned to lick, it was like a classical guitar lick, and I learned it from John Patitucci, who learned it from his brother, and it was a classical guitar exercise. It was called the Spider.
That's it, the Spider. Yeah.
And all you do is...
So, I don't know this one.
So it's fifths, up a half step, up another half step, but minor thirds. So it's... Then you get octaves and minor sixes.
Oh, wow.
Then you get 11s and minor 9s. And it's hard on a P bass, especially because my hands aren't that big.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Another one I learned.
That's wonderful.
Like some Nathan East article, and like probably a guitar player, like before bass player.
Right.
Might have been bass player, but a similar kind of thing where you on one string though you need to just isolate. So it's, but you want to keep your. So it's very much like an upright thing where you're keeping that second finger down if you're not using it. Just economy of motion, minimize activity.
Which is like.
So it would be like.
Yeah. Yep.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
But
that one, I really only recently adopted, and it's been the biggest part of my playing. That exact one.
This one right here.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
And it's weird because the guy that didn't turn me on to it, but I saw him doing it, was Tim Pierce.
Oh, okay.
When you watch Tim play, he just seems to just do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's very smooth.
Effortless.
And when I was playing, I was like clattering around, like, and yet Tim's just like this, very, very effortless.
If you know the notes, you can start with like the most basic, just like a triad, and start from the lowest note. So if you have C, you start from a low E.
Yeah.
And just take like a little, I call them cells, just like a little note grouping.
Sure.
So see where that comes up again? So you're allowed to play. Then you can name any chord if you know just like the basic notes. You can be like A flat minor 7, flat 5, you know, or something. So you know the lowest note. If here's A flat, the lowest note's going to be the 7th on this bass. I'm not a 6-string player. I occasionally play 5-string, but so I could just look at this and go. Since I made the 7th, those are the notes without getting up to the octave. So. So if you know the notes, all of a sudden you're playing from the lowest to the highest note and back. Same for scales, like take C major scale, the lowest note. So I just pick the amount of notes within a position, so I can fit 6 notes in a position. Right. Then I'll go up to D, which is.
Nice. Very smooth.
So any key you're in,
And that's great. So you move. You're not.
This is such techie talk, or
no, it's great. People will love this stuff.
But I like to know all the possibilities and then forget all that stuff. This is something like a device or tool that you can sit and practice.
Sure.
And move it through the keys, But
no, I agree. Paul Gilbert does the miss out notes so that they play fluidly.
Oh, really?
I
got called to work with him. He called me or sent me an email, and I was doing School of Rock, Andrew Lloyd Webber sessions, and I didn't know they had asked me to hold these dates, and it was right during his window of doing the first part of his record, and I was so bummed.
He's a fantastic.
He's an incredible guitarist.
He's so humble.
The most badass dude all around.
Yeah, all around, just like has no ego whatsoever.
He's sick. He had some exercise, and I was like, oh, I'm stealing that. It was like a pick exercise I saw him do online with something like basically that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he just keeps it going no matter make those 16th notes. So like where it turns around. You know what I mean? I'm hearing 4/4. I'm not. There's no beat going.
So I understand.
People watching this have no idea where 1 is. Only me. No.
No.
And it changes all the time. No.
Well, what the Paul one that I'll show you quickly on a bass and pretend it's a guitar. What he does is obviously does the 3-note thing. I'm sorry. He goes, and rather than play the 7th, he just goes. So then what he's doing now? Imagine on a guitar, he's going. See, he's not going. That ruins your whole movement and it ties you. So exactly the same way of thinking that you were doing, because it ties you. If you play a C major scale like this, you're like, now where do I go to the second one? So you're thinking, you're both thinking the same way of like,
how do you move horizontally up and down the neck and not, because you're right, you run out of room.
And you're all just
and then
tied
you play here, then you're just stuck on one string to mangle your way up.
Up, which is.
So, yeah,
which
Jocko is a huge, he used to call it like kind of the mystery area of the bass, which would be like kind of from here to here.
Yeah.
Because the bass duplicates itself, obviously, at the 12th fret. Yeah. So you can go up here and you're just mimicking here.
Yeah.
But then there's this kind of void area or nebulous area.
Right.
If you're a professional musician, you know it. But when you're learning, it's just this kind of vague area like, oh my God, you really have to know the notes. And, basic theory.
Right. Which is good, and then I was talking to Billy Sheehan a few weeks ago, and Billy.
The guy is a monster. He's dedicated his life. The guy is insanely.
I know he's in his
chops. I don't even know what he's doing.
He's in his 60s, and he says he still works every day.
He's in his 60s?
Yeah, I shouldn't say that.
Oh my God,
it's probably unfair, but he's in his 60s, and he still plays. He works every day on 3 fingers because he's trying to make 3 fingers sound like 1. Because we were talking about James Jamerson, and we played with 1 finger. Every note was just da, da. It was even.
Yeah.
And had beautiful tone.
That's the thing. That's the upright. You play on 1 finger as fast as you can. It's like downstrokes with a pick.
Yeah.
Until you can't anymore, and then you need that after the finger. And then what I noticed Jamerson did this, and it comes from upright. Your middle finger is longer than your index finger.
Yeah.
So if you do this, I'll just do it. They're not as even. If you turn them sideways, it creates the Stanley Clarke. If you watch him play, it came from an upright technique. Because look, there you go. Yeah. You do that, and then they're both nice and.
I never knew that. That's a huge tip. I never even thought why he played.
You look this, and then you do that when you need it. But
Yeah. Yeah, if you stay on 1 finger, it's so much more even. And I find that especially with rock. I was just working with a Polish rock band, and they actually were tracking guitars and bass in Poland. So I was doing it by Skype. I tracked
the
the drums.
ISDN session.
Yeah, so I had the drummer here, tracked the drums here, sent them back. They're doing the overdubs there. And it had this kind of uja, uja, uja. You know, the guitar player's da 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 da, and the bass is like uja, 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 uja.
Okay.
And I just said to him, "You got to relearn to play with one finger."
Yeah.
So he basically now it's da 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 da.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one because
I would do it, but on crossing strings too. Just always exercises that you can do. You know. Just pick a key, no matter what it is.
Smooth with one finger.
Versus, you hear the difference right out the gate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's all one finger, so if you just rake it.
That's great. Well, look, we could do this all day and all night because this is all the fun stuff, though.
Right on.
But with the gear as well. But yeah, the fun stuff is like
making music.
Making music. I mean, even like the producers I respect are musicians. The ones that came up and play music.
You respect them because they know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about.
They can tell you to do something, and they know it firsthand.
Yeah. If I said to you, can you play a tenth there? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. You know, or it's a language, and I might say to you, think Walk on the Wild Side. Then you know I'm thinking a tenth.
Herbie Flowers.
Herbie Flowers.
Upright and electric.
Upright, yeah, which is amazing.
Unreal. He's one of the greats. No, people.
I think he ended up with songwriting on that. Eventually, got published.
Really?
I read somewhere.
He should. That's what people know. They know the melody. They know the lyrics.
I feel like he did. I'd have to double check, but I remember
it's like Steve Gadd on 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover.
Yeah.
It's like there's some parts that are too undeniably iconic to
Get
the
off
song.
my cloud. Down. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, you get off my cloud. That drum part. Take that away. It's not the same song.
No.
There's just sometimes there's just parts that make songs.
Exactly.
Can you imagine a Police song without Andy Summers playing that? I mean, it'd still be a great song, but
I've heard stories about that song.
Yeah, there's
better. We'll leave those for
they're unrepeatable.
Round two.
On camera. So look, let's talk a little bit about the bass setup that we have going in the mic. So we got the DMP here that we're using as a mic pre and a DI all in one.
Yeah.
So
based on it's 1073.
Yeah, I think
it's amazing.
I have one and love it.
The first thing I noticed about it was just the level of bottom end seems to jump out. You're like, whoa, I haven't heard that. It has, as a bass player, you get. See, I'll just crack my speakers, I'll pop them, even at a low level.
Yeah.
This is just a passive bass. So
absolutely.
These are passive speakers. There's nothing enhancing the sound other than my wonderful fingers. This amazing bass and this amazing DI.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What is that bass, by the way? Quick.
Believe it or not, it's based on Pino's. I think it's like on a 63.
63. So
based
is it one
on a
is
63. It might be
custom shop.
Yeah, it was one of. Yeah, see, it has his custom shop.
Wow.
And his signature.
Pino, from a Welsh village.
Guy knows how to play a little bit of bass, I think, right?
He's a phenomenal player.
It's unbelievable.
Great tone. Again, very humble. I've never heard anybody say he's got any kind of ego, which is great.
Super cool, right? Exactly. So
which is all, honestly,
this
the
is
best
his bass, basically.
That you basically stole it from him.
When in his coffin, he was on tour with D'Angelo, and sorry.
So we've got this beautiful bass going in. So just to be really, really dumb so we can explain it to everybody, we're plugging in straight in the front here.
Yep.
This is our mic pre-output, which is going to a compressor over here, which is...
It's going to another, well, it's going also to another BAE 1073 that I have. EQ is not engaged, but if I needed to EQ it a little bit, I have that as well. And then that goes into I have it going into a distressor that we're hitting lightly. We don't need to. I don't like to put a lot of compression on bass, just if you don't need it. Some people play really kind of a little more heavy-handed, and if you're playing up the neck, you need it. But I try to play somewhat even. The one finger
really helps.
Yeah. So.
No, that's very true. I find all the best bass players I work with, like you, I don't have to compress that much.
Yeah, it's it can be a detriment to the tone.
Yeah.
And you're fixing it afterwards, dropping in a plug-in or whatever. But,
well, and that's the great thing about the world we live in now, is you can get things pretty clean and then figure it out later in a much better way.
Yeah.
There's so many incredible plugins available. When we came up, it was like, if you didn't print it the right way, first of all,
that's it.
So now just print a good, fat, clean tone, which is what that's good at doing.
Starts here, just give them the lowest note.
And I was talking to Joe Barisi yesterday, who we both know obviously very well.
Yep.
And this is, you're doing Joe's technique here. Joe and I, we all do the same thing. Just basically run your pre as hot as you can before it starts distorting.
The gain structure is about as high as it can go.
Yeah, so maybe one click up there and it's distorting. You go one back, and that's where you get the sound on a 1073, is to drive it really hot. And then obviously you're bringing your output down, so you're not getting too much output, and that's going into the chain. Now the other thing obviously that is important for us to talk about is that there's 2 through outputs, which is pretty useful, to be honest. Because for me, from an engineering point of view, we've taken that 1 through there and we're going into your amp. What is your amp setup?
I just have right now, it's going through an Aguilar 359, which is into a 112, and I have a fake. It's not a Neumann FET. It's the Wonder. Wonder Audio. Yeah. It's their CM7 FET.
Great.
And I have that just butted up right next to the cabinet. It can take it.
Perfect. And then what's nice is, if we wanted to, you could give me a pedal. You could give me a distortion pedal, you could give me an amp simulator, you could give me whatever you like, and that's nice to have a second through. Sometimes I have a lot of trouble. Guys turn up and we've got to figure out a way. They bring in their pedal board and they want to give me this output and that output, and I'm like, I have a DI with a through.
Yes, so exactly.
It's a simple addition that doesn't seem to be such a big deal, but from an engineering point of view, that is huge to have 2 throughs. And for you, you could run your tuner in it without worrying about putting your tuner in line.
Yeah, it's genius. This box, and one of the features, it's a little feature, but an important feature is just the transportability of this. It has a little handle here, so just taking it for sessions on the go. I do a lot here, but as we all do, there's so many home studios and big pro studios I work at, and I can bring my DI, and it's not a pain.
Yep. I think that's a great thing.
Unscrewing it out of,
Right. And also, yes, definitely the thing, everybody has a studio now, and every musician.
Yeah.
Drummers have their own
I'm a good example, see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just a little bass player too.
And you've got a drum room, you've got great mic pre's to record it, you've got all the gear. You're making a record here at the moment.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
This is the whole new world, and there's a decent amount of expensive equipment in here, but at the end of the day, nothing like what it used to be like when we were kids. And we'd go into a studio and it was like millions of dollars of equipment, and there was no way we're ever going to be able to do that. Now with the DAWs that we have, it's
insane.
Probably a 20th of the cost.
I have a guy who literally shows up with a backpack and he just bypasses my whole system. We just take an M box and plug it into the outputs.
Right.
Put it through the mixer just so he can access this without headphones, and the guy's like an editing machine.
Wow.
Everything, it's the opposite of tape. No.
Yeah. But
take it or leave it.
Yeah, if it makes great music, it makes great music.
That's
definitely.
it.
And I love this idea of it being flexible. I think the other thing as well is, when you're a great player, like you are, and you have a lot of personality in the way that you play, you can also turn up at a session and how it's going to sound, because there's nothing scary. I remember doing sessions as a guitar player, turning up and trying to help the guy or the girl that's producing out by giving them the best tone, but it's so much easier when you can just go, oh, here it is, I've got a great sound. And it helps them, it helps you.
Every time it's consistent.
Exactly.
I know that. I turn it on and I get,
So I was just talking about the language of bass playing. We were saying tense, Herbie Flowers. You can say James Jamerson to somebody, you'll get that kind of playing. Carol Kay. If I say Carol Kay, it's usually palm muting as well. People think kind of Beach Boys.
And pick though.
And pick.
Yeah, she has a big pick. I was inspired. I got into a debate one night with a buddy of mine, an old tech of mine from Atlantis days and even early when I started playing with James. And he and I were hanging out one night having a beer, and we were just talking about Jamerson. And I went online because I had heard about there's a dispute who played on Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Right.
Do you know about this?
I think so.
And it is Jamerson, but Carol Kay claimed it was her. And she did play on it. It's when they were moving sessions to LA from Detroit.
Oh, I see.
So, long story short, I was just online reading about this, and that they noticed at the bottom was Carol Kay's website. I'm like, oh, Carol Kay has a website. I never even thought about this. So I click on it, and she's like, I teach. And I was very fortunate. I just got to play. Julian Raymond had produced some records with Glenn Campbell,
Right.
and I was honored to get to play with him. And
Fantastic, of course.
a lot of people don't know his history. Well, now they do more if you've seen the Wrecking Crew movie. But the guy, played with Frank Sinatra, played with everybody.
I'm a huge fan, so Wichita Lineman's one of my favorite songs.
Unbelievable.
Ever, so,
So he came to LA and was like, show me who's the best guitar. So I'm better than that guy. He's just a ridiculous guitar player.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Incredible.
so I was really studying some of the Wrecking Crew, some of the players and whatnot. I click on her website and she's teaching lessons. So I'm like, oh, wow. So I sent an email and she goes, this is like at 1 a.m. And I get a response at like 1:03. And she's like, I can teach a lesson Tuesday at 11 to,
Wow.
1, this time on Wednesday, this time on. It's like, I'm going to take a lesson with Carol Kay.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I show up, I go to her place, I walk in. She has a place
Wow.
up in Valencia. And she has, look, Chris, I'll be down in a few minutes. Just plug in, start playing, start walking through a standard. And I was like, okay, like play
Right.
Autumn Leaves, or
Right.
a blues or blue boss or whatever, just an
Yeah.
easy standard. So I'm down there. She never picked up a bass once the whole lesson.
Wow.
She only plays guitar. I mean, she plays bass, amazing, but she's
plays
a
guitar,
jazz
amazing.
guitarist.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, like when you're playing a whole tone scale, or any, like to the 5 to 1, if you're going, right? Mm-hmm. What Joe Pass would do, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, wasn't the whole tone scale just all whole steps? Right? She would go like
Oh, that's
just
beautiful.
these smooth transitions.
That's so beautiful.
So she just
I'm
showed
gonna
me
rewind,
little.
I'm going to rewind the video
We're-
20
we're-
times to get that one. I'm the hugest Joe Pass fan, so all we have to do is say Joe Pass and I light up.
Yeah, that's
My dad
that's
had
her,
the Joe
that
Pass
was
and the
loved.
Fitzgerald records as a kid, so to me it was like I grew up on that and classical music before I even
For that
discovered
lick,
it.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that
There are
was
ways to play this instrument that are
got hands, Dad. That's-
effortless.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah.
And imagine on a guitar,
Oh yeah.
you get that much more range just in
Yeah.
that position.
It's beautiful.
So she showed me little things like that.
You ever watched any of the Joe Pass tuition videos?
No, I haven't.
I mean,
actually.
it's just all, he learned stuff, but it's all ear. It really is. He was such a musician, like the real musician. It wasn't a bunch of riffs stuck together and stuff that, because he starts talking and he's like, I don't really know the numbers.
Yeah. I mean,
We're all like 251 and blah, blah, blah. And he just
it
played.
just comes out of him.
It comes out of it. Obviously, he practiced and studied and probably, but it became a point with him where it just became about the music.
Exactly.
I remember seeing this, sorry to waffle on, but I remember seeing this last thing with Jacko before he died, when they asked him about practicing. And do you ever see this? And he goes,
Yeah.
I practice in my mind more than I practice on the instrument now.
Yeah.
So he's just thinking about it and
I saw.
visualizing.
I read some article years ago, and they talked about. I think they posed a question. It was like in Bass Player magazine, like, can you practice without a bass in your hand? And I remember Jeff Berlin was like staunch, like, no, there's no way to get better on your bass without a bass in your hand. Maybe from like a physical standpoint with the instrument, although you could probably like go like get your fingers stronger, tapping on wood or whatever. But it comes down to that understanding, the mental side of it, and you can do so much without an instrument in your hand.
Absolutely. I know when he said that, I was like such a revelation, because if I'm playing and I'm working all day and I'm doing music, I'm lying in bed and I'm visualizing everything. And then I'm just like, wow, if I actually focus this, I get up the next morning and play guitar and I'm already in the zone.
Right? Totally. Yeah.
It's weird. I'm not like relearning. It's not, and it's like, and like what Barney Kessel would say about warming up, he's just like, just play notes on the guitar. Don't launch into this thing. You just like warm up. You just like play like chromatically around. Just get his fingers going.
Right.
And I realized with those guys that, jazz players that live and breathe it, there's a lot more going on than, me as a rock player predominantly just sort of focusing on this. There's a lot more mind in it than fingers. At a point.
Improvisation though it's been played, so there are ideas that are maybe coming up spontaneously in the moment you're reacting, but there's still licks and nuances, things that have been under your fingers for the most part. I mean, not always, but Yeah, Jocko, I know he would talk to people who I learned some crazy stuff about him over the years. But one of the things he would do, like when he was playing with Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders, he would get on the bus after the gig, after they played for 2 hours. All the other guys were drinking beers and partying a little bit, having fun, moving on to the next town.
Yep.
He would go back to his bunk, he had a bass on the bus, and he would just be on there going, still going.
Still going, yeah.
Before this is, pre-Solar Record, Weather Report, just putting time in. You don't just get it given to you, no matter how much natural ability you're born with.
Yeah, it's the 10,000 hours, the Malcolm
right
Gladwell
on.
10,000 hours.
That's it, yeah. Got to
put that time in.
Put the time in. That's where people who aren't born with that can excel just by sheer will, determination, passion, focus.
I talk about it all the time. When I was a kid, there was this kid, John, who's still a good friend of mine. He was just that freak of nature that we both started playing guitar at the same time. He put on an AC/DC record, and the next day I go over there, and we've been playing 2 weeks, and he's already worked out all the AC/DC riffs. He's got like 3 riffs under his belt, and I'm still trying to figure out how to play an A chord properly. So I just suddenly realized I better do something about this. And all I did was practice 6 or 8 hours a day for like 7 years.
There you go.
And that's
it.
And there was no 10,000 hours theory.
There's no denying you if you don't get better by doing that. And it also comes down to the content you're working on.
Absolutely.
It's like you can walk into a music store and there's from A to Z and all the artists. How do you know that Weather Report or Jocko or Led Zeppelin or The Who or whoever it is? Yeah,
I was lucky. I had mentors.
Yeah, if you know where to head, you just kind of sift through the fat.
Well, for you, I'd love to. I'll quickly talk about me and then ask you. What was for me is I had a mentor. I had this guy called Ollie in the north of England when I lived up there, and he was like 35. I was 16, so he was like the old guy.
Okay, yeah.
And he basically went, Paul Kossoff has the best feel of any guitar player. Listen to his vibrato, and you'd hear this wow, wow vibrato. Then he'd go best left-hand technique, and he'd go Alan Holdsworth and just legato technique.
Wow.
And then he goes best guitar player in the world, Jeff Beck. And it was just like, these were just facts that he told me.
Okay.
And I'm a personable 16-year-old. And to be honest, I still think those 3 things are actually true.
I'll back that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, that Eddie, I think, is the consummate rock guitar player who could put it all together because he could shred, but he also had blues in him.
Yeah.
Where
he's also a huge May fan. Brian May.
Of course. I bet my favorite band is Queen. So
right on.
We could go off on a tangent on Queen for 4 hours. So I was lucky. I had that guy that I had trust in because he's such a wonderful guitar player.
Yeah.
I never met a really great musician face to face.
Yep.
And so I just took it as gospel.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did.
I had a guy like that.
You did?
A guy named Steve Evans. Juan Aldretti, who plays with Mars Volta.
Yeah.
I didn't know this until Juan actually told me he took lessons with this guy named Steve Evans. He plays with like Roy Rod. He plays with the most working bass player up in the Bay Area, up in San Francisco. Right. And he was teaching me, little did I know, like John Scofield line riffs. It was a record called Still Warm.
Right.
With Daryl Jones and Omar Hakim and Don Grolnick. It's
Omar Hakim,
an amazing record. Teaching me bass, I was like, like I was like, what is that again?
That's incredible.
Showing me these lines and, but for me, bass playing wise, of course, when I first heard Geddy Lee,
right,
who came out of the Chris Squire, Entwistle kind of school, Jack Bruce.
Yeah,
and
love Jack Bruce, yeah.
But I was at that age where I was later to go back to the older rock.
Right.
I heard that. And then I had a friend who was a couple years older than me in high school who was very into jazz and turned me on to Miles and Coltrane and Dexter Gordon, Sonny Stitt, Hank Mobley, just all these.
Or the first time I heard Kind of Blue, I was just like, wow.
Yes, and I was older. I was probably like 13, 14 when I started listening to some jazz. So I wasn't like a little kid. I didn't grow up with it in the house. I grew up in the house was actually, my dad would play like Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall. We had Beatles.
Wow. Your dad was very hip.
Yeah. When I called him, when I did a Jane's record in 2001, 2002, and Bob Ezrin was the producer. And I remember calling my dad.
Oh, he would have freaked out.
And he's like, Bob Ezrin's are you kidding
Wall.
me?
Yeah.
Well, and those guys had a Berlin, Lou Reed.
Yeah, Berlin, yeah.
They had a short list. They had like Roy Thomas Baker, Bob Ezrin,
Probably Jack Douglas, maybe.
Yep.
Because of Toys and
And it
That
just kept
rocks.
coming back to Bob. That's Dave's favorite guitarist. I mean, he's got maybe a few more guys. He loves Eddie and
Sure.
Randy Rhoads, but really it's Dave Gilmore.
Really?
Yeah, he
Interesting.
loves Dave Gilmore. We play Floyd backstage.
I wondered if maybe one of his favorites was Tony Iommi, because
Loves, yeah.
Because remember the Music Cares thing about 3 years ago?
Yep.
When he got up with Ozzy, I was there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
were you there as well?
I wasn't there that night,
Right.
but I've played with Ozzy with him on a handful of occasions, and we've played Iron Man and
He literally plays Tony Iommi like perfectly.
perfect. I know.
So I remember I was sitting there with a friend of mine, and we're sitting down on nice comfy couches, feeling all important, all good with ourselves. Up he comes, and I'm like, Dave's going to play Ozzy, and I just think of him as being like a shreddy kind of guy when he plays solos, and he just launched in and played Tony Iommi perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Did all the right bends and everything, and we were like, wow, he's definitely a Tony
huge.
Iommi fan.
Yeah, before every gig, we have a jam room set up backstage just to go out, so you're already warm. Perry usually comes in, 10 minutes or so before we go on, and we'll sing two or three Jane's tunes.
Wow.
But for the hour or two before he even comes in, Perkins, Dave, and I are just back there, and we're playing Old Sabbath, Deep Purple, Aerosmith, Zeppelin, Who. We just classic rock riffs and songs, and it's great.
Lots of rock and roll. Let's do a quick bit of just setup so guys can see that basically Chris is making records here. He's making a record at the moment. He's got a live room. He's recording drums. He's recording bass. He's recording guitars. He's recording vocals. He's making albums here. So let's have a quick rundown. Obviously, we know the DMP is how you're recording bass. Now, a couple of quick dumb questions.
Yeah.
This is your everything mixer, yeah?
Yes.
The Chandler here.
I'm either in the box or right here.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's a beautiful mixer.
It's great. Yeah, it sounds. I had a buddy of mine who helped do the acoustics in this room. This guy Jeff Terzo. He opened it up, took out a channel. He's like, God, each one of these transformers at cost is $100.
Right.
So you're looking at whatever that is, $1,600 just in transformers.
Right. That's wonderful.
And it's all amazing, components. I'm not the biggest tech guy, but
no, I understand.
I know how it sounds, and
no, but this is important. I think it's nice to know and really understand what we're using on a daily basis. At Bass Mint, the studio is called Bass Mint, M-I-N-T. Let's make sure.
The basement.
basement.
And we are in a basement.
We're such nerds. It's such nerds. Musicians are nerds. Let's be honest. Anybody who's like 13-year-old and listening to Jacko, we're nerds. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this is the DI. You're using this if you want to engage the EQ, so it's just coming in line.
Yeah.
You may or may not use it. So he would engage the EQ here. The amp is being recorded by this.
Again, got the phantom power on because of the FET 47 or the Wonder 47.
Wonder 47, and there's no EQ on at the moment, but it's going to the Teletronics, the LA2.
Yeah, the amp is going to the LA2A, and the DI is going to this top distressor.
Yep. And both are set pretty gently. I mean, it's only a 2-to-1 on this, so not a lot of compression. And this is gentle, obviously, because it's it's an LA2.
Exactly.
And then, these little Chandlers here? Do you have any?
They're just mic pre's with EQ, channel strips. Just another flavor of a 1073. These are 1028s, which
I love those.
Are unbelievable.
Yeah, they have great EQ settings
on everything. Everything here can be used on anything. It's just what flavor you're going for, but. On vocals, on acoustic guitars. That's how we're just set up right now.
Yeah, I love them on acoustics, and especially if I want to engage the EQ and just put some shimmer on the top. Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And I have Royers and 451s. I don't have the most massive mic collection, but
functional mics.
Functional
use every day.
mics, exactly.
Use every day, yeah.
For
working in studios, the thing we learn is like you work with all these world-class engineers, and you see their go-tos.
Yeah. I have a long list, and then I have a short list of wants.
Yeah.
Not necessarily needs, but wants.
Yeah, but I know exactly how it is. We go to a studio, and that with a 57, a FET, and then any choice of large diaphragm condensers for overheads, for rooms. I mean, it'd be nice if I had two 51s on and 47s and everything. But we know that a high quality condenser, you got a pair of, you got overheads, you've got room mics, you've got And then, of course, we're just talking about this off camera. This is fantastic. I love that you have this.
The thing there was a guy in New Jersey who I got this from, and he had it new in the box. That's why it looks so brand new.
It does look so brand new.
I'm not like the most anal guy with my gear. Of course, I want it to be working and functioning properly, but I was like, I'll definitely take that. I should have gotten 2 of them. He had a few of them. And, but what he didn't have, and if you watch any old footage of Jocko, is the delay they had. They make that delay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do,
it's the same blue. It's unreal. And that's when he does slang and some of those.
Did you ever get into acoustic amps? Did you ever want an acoustic?
I don't own an acoustic amp. Right. It's a travesty. But I'd love to have one of those old amps.
Now this, are these, when you're tracking drums, are these your drum pre's?
Yeah, exactly. These are based on like a API 312. It has an Avitas op amp.
Yeah,
and
wonderful.
You know, I put keyboards. My Taurus pedals are not here right now, but you know.
And then what are these E15s?
Those are also British audio engineering.
Oh, those are BAEs?
Yeah.
Why do I not know this?
Yeah.
I know the B15. Did you get these just recently?
No, they're old.
Oh, I'm going to have to
old
ask.
Meaning like 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago.
I didn't know that. Oh, I don't want to adjust them because you probably help them set up, but that.
No.
They look fantastic.
Yeah, they're really great.
And they sound amazing.
Amazing.
What are you using them on?
Put them on snare.
Oh, fantastic.
You know, just on acoustic. We've used them on.
That's wonderful.
On everything, really.
And then the 737s, what are you finding those to be used on?
Well, I don't use them that much. Right. I did a session and they were a gift to me for the session. So I actually did not buy these, but they fill out this side of the rack nicely.
It's funny.
But believe it or not, though, the engineer I was working with the other day, we did vocals and he just put it through these. He's very comfortable with these. They're the all-in-one deal.
And then the last thing, and we talk about these a lot, so I'm sure everybody knows 1176s, but obviously a standard go-to compressor. I always tell people if you're only going to buy one compressor, buy a 1176. I mean, it can be a vocal, a snare drum.
These are all the reissue, you can call them reissues. They're not the old, ones.
No, I mean, I like the new ones and the old ones. One more thing, Space Echo.
Used that this week on guitar for a very beautiful guitar, a real mellow guitar solo, just with a lot of echo and reverb and.
Wonderful. That's in beautiful condition.
Yeah, I got that from the same guy actually, where I got this.
Chris, that was fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming by.
I'm so bummed that we don't have more time.
Right on. I know. Me too.
We've got all these beautiful basses we can talk about and go on for another hour about that. It's like great collection. I love the guilds. So we could definitely be talking about basses for hours. I want to ask you about that Rickenbacker, but we'll save that for another day.
Definitely.
Well, look, thank you ever so much for showing us around.
And my pleasure. Anytime. We'll do it again.
We will do it again, trust me. We'll probably have like a lesson plan.
Right on.
We'll be like, let's talk about basses for 10 minutes, and then let's talk about that for 10 minutes, and then this...
Theory talk.
Oh, I love all that stuff. I love all this stuff. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So please, as ever, leave some questions and comments below. And of course, as ever, bring your own, what do you do when you're recording bass? How do you do it? What's your preferred mic pre's and compressors and stuff? Let's talk about all that stuff. And once again, thanks very much for having us here at the Basement.
Basement it is. Cheers.
Thank you.